Good evening, everyone. I see we have Chris and Sharon here and myself. I think I'm going to wait just a few more minutes to see if, oh, there's Dave Knapp is here too. Okay, so we do have a quorum. Can you make Dave co-host so that you should be able to unmute yourself, Dave, when you're ready. Okay, then I'm going to open the meeting and we're going to go and do the pledge. So if you'll say the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Cassie, can you please take a roll call?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So this is a finance committee, so
This meeting is being recorded.
Mr. Bashura,
Present.
Ms. Veroshak.
Sharon is here. As is for the record, Mr. Knapp, we do have a quorum. Okay. Just a little bit up front, the meeting here is actually to go through and explain the budget process, where we stand now, what we're doing in terms of cuts for the referendum, and looking to get people to understand the need to understand the information and hopefully get out to vote to see what we can do here. So that's part of what we're looking to do tonight. The next section is actually public session, and what I would like to do, if it's okay, is defer that until after the meeting. I think it would be more beneficial if we talk about things and then we look to have the public comment on it, if that's okay. So as long as my board members are okay with that, I'm going to defer number 4 until after the public or the open session that we have. Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay. For the record, I have sent the detailed budget, the summary budget, and the list of current cuts from the original proposal to all the board members. That information is now posted on the Ansonia.org under the Board of Education budget section. So if people are looking to see what's out there, it is out there and posted. And we will be talking about that now. So as we originally started our budget process, which probably went back to last October with our last finance person, Chuck Carey. We started out with wants, I should say, of about $4.2 million. And, we knew that was unrealistic, and we moved things down and basically categorize things that we need to do to continue on pretty much at the path and the speed that we're going forward with our education. And the essence of that, with wages and benefits, was about a 2.5% increase over last year, which was about 600,000. Our utilities are increasing, our energy costs and sewer use costs and other things. We're going up 13%, and that was about $120,000 of our increase. Special ed costs in transportation for regular and special ed. This increase is significant. It's over 20%, about 1.3 million. The bus contract being renewed, we're not finalized yet, but I believe it's going to be about an 8% increase overall in transportation. And that would put it at about 125,000 on the regular bus contract increase, and the rest is on the special education transportation, which is multifaceted, and the special ed costs themselves, which is the most significant portion of this increase. And that number with those things basically added up to about $2 million. And so we came in with a request for $1.98 million, I believe. And the most significant piece was going to be the special ed costs. So we've we put that out. The people voted in the referendum, and in the first go round, they voted down both the city and the Board of Education. And as we moved forward, there was discussions back and forth with the city and the Board of Ed, and we submitted some items for reduction in our budget, but it would seem that at the Board of Aldermen meeting, especially with the number of parents and students that spoke in favor of the Board of Ed, I think the Board of Aldermen maybe decided it might be best to leave that as it is at that point, and it actually got defeated again, and to a worse extent. So we're now at a point where, as we discuss, we're proposing a list of $400,000 in cuts to the proposed budget to bring it down to, clock out of turn, a $1.58 million increase over last year. The list of cuts that we're proposing and we want to discuss, and excuse me, I've got a lot of open things on my desk right now, so let me shuffle things around. Proposed. Some of the cuts that we're talking about include about $82,000 for no new AP math and science textbooks for the high school students, about a $14,000 loss of middle school ELA consumables, $28,000 of reduction in basic student supplies, crayons, paper, musical instruments, art supplies, $20,000 in after-school programs, elementary and middle, about $50,000 in no full-time lead security. We had someone retire, and we've opted not to fill that at this time. So a security person will not be replaced. $11,000 to cancel subscription for the online math programs, Cami and Tang. Looking at $45,000 elimination of all middle school sports. We've just really started those programs back up after COVID, but again, it's after school things. We're trying not to hit anything that's affecting the educational piece of this. $25,000 elimination of high school junior varsity sports equipment, uniforms, refs, trainers, transportation. $23,000 Reflex math subscription. Again, program aids for our student literacy and fluency in math. $55,000 cuts to building maintenance and repairs that we had. We've deferred a lot, and we do some every year. We've got a lot of things going on in our building, so it's a partial cutback on some of the things that we would want to do to have our building maintained during the year. And $52,000 elimination of all the technology upgrade purchases we had planned for the year. So those are things in track one. Dr. DeBacco and his team went through. I know he spoke to all of the principals, and I'm going to let Dr. Joe talk just a little bit about some of these cuts and what that impact is. And we can start talking a little bit about where, if this doesn't pass, where we're going to land and some of the things that we're going to need to put on the table for the next variation on this thing. So, Dr. Joe, if you will.
Good evening, everyone. As Mr. Bashar just shared, it's the cuts that are being proposed are not exciting for me or for anyone. Some of these things are things that we look forward to, such as sporting activities, which I love and I know our students care about. We do have, when it comes to AP textbooks, if we had to go another year before we had to get them, they said, we could do that. We did, just so when it comes to the math online subscriptions, that they were very useful and very helpful, especially during the pandemic. But now that we've purchased new math curriculum, the amount of usage has decreased. Are they great? Yes. Are they maybe a luxury at this time? Yes. These are not ideal cuts. And one thing I do want to share with everyone here is that my hope is one day that the state says that we should get some money in excess cost money. If that was to happen, we could probably absorb some of these cuts if that was to ever happen. We're not going to know that to the end of legislative session. But in the meantime, we've had to make some real decisions as far away from the classroom as possible, as far away from teaching and learning as possible, as far away from people that directly interact with children when it comes to learning literacy, learning how to read, learning how to do math. Presently, we have to take a look. Our average class size in our elementary schools is 22 students. People have said, let's head count. Let's get one teacher at an elementary school class will make every classroom 29 students. That's not a school system any of us want for our students. I'm not trying to threaten. I'm not trying to scare. We're just trying to cut things that could be perceived as a luxury item, nice to have items. In a perfect world, I think they're ideal for a complete school experience, but we're trying to make these in proposals as far away from inside the classroom as possible. Once again, they're not ideal. Building maintenance, we have buildings, our middle school is close to 90 years old, and it needs some love. There are building maintenance things that maybe we could put off, and these are these hard family decisions, meeting with every department saying, what could we maybe put off a year if we had to do? And there are things that, what could we bring back if we were ever able to have a couple extra dollars? Because pretty much these things, when you put it out there, they're going to happen. But if we're ever able to get some money from the state, we could probably pull some of these things back. And that's what I would like some people to understand. But if this referendum doesn't go through and these cuts happen and we have to make further cuts, there's not bringing anything back. It's more things are going to go, and it's going to get deeper into more staffing. It could be personnel at all levels, in all places. Things that we just have to also be cognizant of is that our high school is going to be going through our NEASC accreditation. You do want an accredited high school, so there's things that we can and can't cut. There's things that we can and can't do. But if this referendum doesn't go through, the next round, there's no way to cut 2 million, 1.4 million without head count. And that's something I'm afraid of. And it's something that's been worrisome. It's been bothersome. It's something that's been weighing heavy on myself, because our kids deserve better. They deserve it. And I would love everyone to come out and do everything they can do to make sure that the kids get exactly what they need. So it's been day after day meeting with every department, meeting with the finance director, meeting with my assistant super, in trying to determine what things, if they had to go, not ideal, but in the meantime, if we could ever get this referendum to pass, if we got what things could we also bring back? It's a very thoughtful way. It's not ideal, but it's something that if these cuts do happen, I'm not saying in a threatening way. I say it in the saddest way. It's steps backwards. It's us taking multiple steps backwards, and it's going to get dire, and it's going to put us in a situation that is not good for our kids and for our school district. And sorry, Rich, for getting me to talk sad, but it's the truth. That's the next step, and I don't want to get to that next step.
Understood. No, I don't think anyone does, but look, as we go through this, I guess I want to explain some of the processes that are internal and external to this whole thing. So, because part of what I'm hearing is people don't understand, people don't hear it, I'm here today to talk as long as anybody wants to talk about how this budget process works and the things that are affecting why and what goes on. So I'm biased, okay? I see from the inside all the good things that have occurred. We have this tale of two cities. We're sort of inner city, but we're sort of bedroom community. And things that are going on here are really amazing. We've got some really good administration, teachers, support staff. There are things happening here. When you have kids going to South Korea to work on STEM projects with other students internationally. We had some students just go to China. We've been invited to transport over to Portugal and Hungary for international exchange of students and ideas and staff. These things don't happen to everybody. These are things that are happening here, which is a sign to me that there's something magical happening here. And part of that is because of the support from our mayor and our board of aldermen and our taxpayers to help do some of these things. But there's something going on here that cutting back on the budgeting will curtail them and will have some major impact on some of the things. I went to UConn as a kid. I've had 2 kids graduate from UConn. My grandson is at UConn. I know how difficult it is to get into UConn. We had 32 seniors apply to UConn this year, and 30 of them were accepted. That's just unbelievable. And it's a sign and shows what really is going on in our school system. So there's so much going on. I wish more people would come to our Board of Ed meetings. If we have 5 people outside of the student or the school community there, it's a lot, but you would hear all the wonderful things that's going on in our student population and how much it's really, really worth the effort to see what's going on. And, sometimes if it's not broke, don't fix it. So, maybe a lot of people just kind of know that it's working and we don't really have to administer to it, but today we do. This is where we are now with budgeting, and we have some things. So within the budget process, we've been through some of the things that we're going to have to cut now that we're putting up on the table. We're going to submit to the Board of Aldermen. There's a list being worked on now by Dr. Tabacco and his team of what's the next step, but it'll probably be, if this doesn't pass, if we don't get the people out to vote, this will probably be another $400,000 to $500,000 on the next go round. And so it could get devastating on some of the cuts. We're going to talk about that with the members, but I'd like to get into some of the other pieces of this puzzle, which are ECS, which is our educational cost sharing. Now, we are an alliance district, and as such, since 2009, we've been an alliance district. What that means on the city side is that the amount of money that the state gives to the city to help fund this operational budget, the one that people are voting on now, has not changed since 2009. That number, $15,031,668, has been the same for the last 18 years. And in that time, our budget's gone up between $13 and $14 million. And every nickel of that $14 million has come from the taxpayers of the city of Ansonia, from the taxes collected by the city of Ansonia. Now, the way it's written for Alliance, any increases to the ECS go to the Board of Education and are used as a grant. They need to be approved by the state. They cannot be used for anything that supplants the existing budget. So you can't use it to pay for a teacher if you're already paying for that teacher. You can't use it to increase their salaries or buy insurance or pay for the electricity or do anything that would be included in the normal operating budget that's currently being done. Now, that number is somewhere between $5 and $6 million. It's going up $1 million this year because the ECS is going up, but that Alliance District grant will need to be approved by the state. And last year, it didn't get approved until November. I've seen it go as far as February before we've gotten final approval to spend that money before they will give it to us, which makes it difficult to kind of base and judge how you're going to budget your things and pay for things. But that being said, at least November last year is where we got it. That this year, that $1 million that we're looking at extra, it's being utilized to offset the ARP ESSER grants that we've had for several years. Last year or the current year, it was $2 million. we're losing that grant. That's going away. And so the $1 million increase we're getting for our Alliance district will be moving a significant portion or parts of that ESSER grant to the Alliance grant. And it will also be used to sustain some of the increases. Now, in that Alliance grant, part of the requirement of the state is that all you need is half-day kindergarten. Well, some years ago, the city decided we want full-day K. It's important. And so because it's not required by the state, they allowed us to use some of that Alliance money to pay for half of the kindergarten teachers, their salaries and their benefits. So that's a big portion of what's in that Alliance grant. And that is sustainable. And every year we have to sustain those numbers. But there's other things that are in there also. But it's been an ongoing thing for 18 years. Problem is, any increases to the operating budget that we currently use must be funded by our taxpayers locally. And so that hurts. The Alliance money, again, I've explained some of what that's all about. But we were one of 30 districts. Then it went to 33 districts. And I think it was up to 35 or 36 districts that were listed as Alliance. There's discussion now of actually reducing the number of Alliance districts and actually going to call them some priority district. And they will bring that number down if the legislation goes through, and it's not fully passed yet. So this is only on the table, down to 15. Ansonia and Derby were both still listed in that group of 15, along with Stamford, Bridgeport, Norwalk, New Haven, Waterbury, Hartford, New London, Meriden, and all the big cities, and then Ansonia and Derby. We're little, and it hurts us more because of that we're Alliance. If they would, in my opinion, if they would allow us to take that ECS money, filter it through on the operating budget side, we would be in much better shape. But these are hoops we need to jump through, and we do what we need to do. But it puts more of a burden on our taxpayers. The loss of grants, I talked about it. We're losing $2 million in grants, and we're picking up $1 million in grants. I was kind of worried about the federal grants, but I'm being told at this time, really not a lot of discussion of cancellation of our IDEA grants and our Title I and those kinds of grants from the federal government. So that's good news. The excess special education money. This is the big piece of this puzzle. Our SPED costs, and excuse me, let me find the right spot here. Our special education costs have increased dramatically over the last 4 years. And it's not just us, it's statewide. The state has been fighting with this. There's legislation that it's in committee that they may give more money to special education, but it's going to certainly put it outside the fiscal guardrails. And so I'm sure once it gets to the floor, there's going to be arguments back and forth, and we have no idea where that will land. And that would resolve much of this problem if they were to give more money for the excess special ed. But how excess special ed works is this. The city is required to spend 4.5 times our average student cost. In Ansonia, it's around $20,000 average cost. So at 4.5 times, we need to pay the first $90,000 out of our operational budget for any student that is in excess of that, or anything for any student even up to that. But we have probably 60 students above that $90,000 threshold. Last year, that number that we submitted as excess and over and above the $90,000 was over $3.5 million. Now, the state statute says their state will reimburse us for 100% of anything over that excess cost, but that does not happen. Historically, we get about 72% of that back. So that means for some of these students, the city is paying $90,000 plus 30% of some of the extras on most of the students in that category. Now, our special education, it could be from very minor to very severe. We have currently over 500 students that designation of special education. That number's increased by 10% this year. We started the year at about 440. We're now up to over 500 students. I know a 2 or 3 week period in March, we had, I believe, 20 new students sign up for the Ansonia School District. Of those, 9 came with special education paperwork that we must adhere to. These are things we can't budget for, and it happens a lot. So as part of this process, we've probably had 250 people that have entered the Ansonia school system since September. Probably close to just as many that have left our district in that same time frame. But in that time frame, about almost half have come from New Haven, Bridgeport, and Waterbury. Same level of DERG level that we have, or lower than ours, but it's people are looking to come to Ansonia, I think, because of the great educational system that we're presenting out there. So this SPED money is not being reimbursed to the city. And in the last 3 years, net special education costs, which is after we apply the excess special education grant against them, we've gone from $4.1 million in the 22-23 year to a projection of next year of 25-26 to $5.8 million. That's a $1.7 million increase over the last 3 years. And that's usually what's going on is we're seeing $300,000 to $500,000 to $600,000 more per year over what we're budgeting based on our ending numbers from the prior year. And that's causing us to put freezes on all of our spending in other areas as early as November. So it's not that we're overspending it. We're not spending frivolously. We're doing whatever we can. We've brought in our vendors. We've reduced contract costs as best we can. Our bus contract that we're looking at 8%, I think Milford went up 20%. Others were going up 15%. We've been very good with our bus company, and they've been very good with us. We've tried to do different things to save money. But the special education piece, that transportation is different. And that has caused us some severe pain in the numbers. And I think it's part and parcel to COVID. When COVID hit, we didn't have as many people go out for special education. And as such, the school district saved money. And what our school district did with that money, for 2 years running, our school district returned to the city $1 million in each year for the 2 years during COVID because we didn't spend it on special education. Look, our job is to work with our city because our city works with us. And we felt it appropriate to refund that money to the city to help them do what they needed to do on their end. And they've been very good to us. When we needed money, they've been able to give us money to help our program move forward. But since that happened, there were many companies that were small that went out of business because there was no transportation companies. And some of the other vendors for providing services for special education went out of business. And with a reduced amount of vendors, supply and demand, the cost went up, and it's been going up all across the state. It's not just here. If I'm understanding correctly, and again, I'm only going by what I've heard, the state puts a block of money for our special ed costs in their budget. And when all the cities apply, they will participate on a percentage basis of what has been allocated. Last year, they told us it was going to be close to 91% we would get. Well, there was such an increase, and I heard almost 25% increase from the prior year statewide of the applications for excess special ed, that they came back and said, oh, it's only going to be 61%, which would have been a $600,000 hole for us this year. Luckily, the legislatures came together. They voted to put an additional 41 million in, even though the governor vetoed it, they went back and they took it from a different source of funding. That money came back. We ended up with about our 72%. We had actually budgeted about 78. So last year's or current year's budget is probably a few $100,000 short. But again, we compensate by cutting off other areas in order to make the special education numbers work. We don't know what they're going to do next year. They're talking that they want to put more money in. I would love to see them put more money in, but I can't budget that money until we know what they're going to do. So it could be that we do and that they do that. And we've already stated if we get extra special ed money after we would, reallocate for things that we may have to cut now, we would return the money to the city. We're okay with that. We're not trying to make the taxpayers pay more than they need to, but we can't base our budget off of maybes. I've seen the state legislature say yes to this and tomorrow it's no. You just can't do it. So I'm going, in my mind, with historical 72%. That's what we put in our budget for the excess special reimbursement. And we're basing it off of this year's number of 3.5 million that we're going to submit. It may be more. Well, I'm hoping that the special ed costs will plateau, but it could be higher because we just don't know what happens with our transitional population of students coming in and out so much. So those are the big hits. Those are some of the things that are there. Just again, the money that Board of Ed receives for our operational budget comes from our taxpayers, our Board of Aldermen, our mayor, and we're very thankful for all they've done for us. We have a great thing going here for our students. They are learning. We have replaced a number of our curriculums. Our teachers are just excited about their curriculum. They're working together. And just there are some very, very good things going on here that, it would be sad if we can't get this passed in this next referendum. So right now I'm going to bring it out to my board members to see if anyone has any questions, thoughts, concerns that they would like to share at this point in time. I know I've hogged the mic here, so I'll let you guys come and talk here. Please do.
Well, I know that our teachers have not received pink slips in 5 years. And that's something that I want to see continue. It's very important to our community. It's very important to the kids.
And Sharon, you bring up a good point with that, in that in years past, with all of the pink slips, which are required by contract, if we plan on laying someone off, what that has done in the past, it said to the teachers, well, I got to go find a new job. And so it was probably a 25%, maybe more, I don't even know, of our teaching force would come in and go out. And the people that we were able to get back in, they knew that what was going on here. And so we didn't get the cream of the crop coming in as teachers. And since we've been able to level the playing field with the wage structure, and present some of the things that we've got going on here, we've got teachers that want to come here. And teachers are telling their friends, hey, this is a good place to come and teach because there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of good things going on. So the good point about that, it's not just the pink slips, it's the teacher stabilization. If we have 3 or 4 or 5 teachers in a year that are leaving at the end of the year, it's usually for a reason, and it's not because they just don't want to be here. They're excited to be here. So that's a good point. Dave, Chris, you got anything you want to bring up?
No, Rich, actually, I think you did a very good job explaining all the key points, the major points, and I'm interested to hear, some of the comments from the public as well, and then maybe we could have some more discussion after that.
Sure. I want to, first, I'm going to ask any of our administrators, Mr. Bergen, Dr. DeBacco, anything that you may want to bring up about this discussion before we move into the public section of this? Or should we
Actually,
just
Rich,
go
no,
to
I
the
think you
public?
did a great job. Yeah, I think you did a great job as far as going through everything, all the steps that we've taken, and you know, all the issues that we have with the state, and hoping for reimbursement and being promised but not given.
Well, look, I've done this for 40 years and I know the state, and you know what? The only person I can really count on are the people here in Ansonia, and that's kind of what's been going on. And if we get something from the state, that would be great. Would I like to see things different or better? Yep. Had the ECS money come to the city to be allocated to the Board of Ed, that $1 million, instead of going to the Alliance side, you know what? That would have been half of what, almost half of what we'd asked for. You know, it alleviates some of the problems that we have going on, but you know, it would be great if some things were different, but these are the cards we have, and that's what we're going to play. So, okay, I will open up to the public and see. Dave, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, you've done a great job explaining what's going on. Can you please let us know if this next vote comes back like the previous votes, what would happen then? And how important it is for everybody to get out there and vote for the existing budget?
Well, there's a list floating around. I don't know, Dr. Joe, you want to do it or do you want me to do it?
Well, I can tell you, Dave, the next step goes into staffing. That's where
It
it's
doesn't
gonna
look
happen.
pretty.
No, and to be honest, I can tell you, saying that stuff publicly to everybody, it made it real. It made it real for me. Kind of really got me upset. We've made a lot of steps forward here in Ansonia. We're doing
Yeah.
exceptional things. I have great kids. I have great families. I'll put my teachers up against anyone in the state. Our administrators are doing the yeoman's work as well. And to say it out loud, it kind of hurt, was very sad, because we've made so many steps forward. There's talk about excellent programming. When I see kids going to Sikorsky, when see kids getting internships at Butterfly, when I see our students presenting at the CBIA events, I am going to be a judge at a mock trial on Tuesday. To see our students do absolutely incredible things and make us proud on a daily basis. The next level of cuts, it's you're going to get into the flesh. You're going to get into people, and it gets into head count. And it's not easy with contracts. There's other things that come into play, bumping and movement. It'll put us backwards.
If we want to keep this ship moving in the right direction and moving forward, we can't stress enough how important it is for everybody to get out there and vote, and for this budget.
Yes.
I think Stephanie Ocasio, board member, I asked her to unmute. I think she wanted to share.
Thank you, Joe. To go off of what you all were just saying, I mean, I think for a lot of people, they can't see it. It's almost like they can't touch it, they can't feel it. But I think they need to hear these things. I think we need to know how deep this is going to go. I mean, there's so many places that have, just not, I don't want to, talk badly on other places, but their teachers aren't at the same level as ours. Our teachers are winning awards. They're doing great things. The administrative staff, just everyone in our school district is just doing so well and doing the best that they can. And as a board member, as a mother, as an Ansonia resident, paying taxes, owning a home, and having one child, graduating high school and having one child starting, I came back to Ansonia for this, for this, for our school district, for my children. And so I think people really need to understand, because I think we kind of get, for like just a lack of a better word, a little lost in the sauce there. But it needs to be explained that we use the money for what's necessary. And I think people start getting lost in other things and they don't have answers to other questions that they have. And so our education is going to suffer from that. And I feel like it's just separate from other things, even though it's tied in, if that makes sense. And I don't know, we really need to stress the importance of our children, our teachers, and just, doing what we can to go forward. I mean, I know that it was pouring rain. I waited as long as I could. I had surgery on my spine, all of this, and I walked down to the armory to vote, It's like we got to push, we got to make the effort, we got to get out there, we have to do what we have to do to get this rectified.
Well, I'm hopeful that we can get as much information to the people that they want so that they can make an informed decision and go out there and vote the way they feel that they think they should vote. So thank you, Stephanie.
Rich, can I ask one more question, Rich?
Yeah.
It's Chris. Excuse me. I just want to, clarify or be clear myself that this referendum that's going next Friday, that'll be the 3rd. So should our budget fail, we revert back to the 24-25 budget, our current year's budget. And if I'm right, based upon let's just call it the $2 million original ask we had, I think it was 1819, as you said. We're essentially then starting the next year or our next budget cycle in the hole at a $2 million deficit. Is that correct?
I've actually asked that question today, and should this fail, there will be another vote, I'm told, in early June, and maybe even a 5th.
Okay. All right. I was under your question.
We continue to move forward. If we don't have one by July 1st, we revert to last year's budget. But we can still continue to vote on budgets going forward, and they would then send an additional bill out, but they would bill out at last year's rates for July 1. So that's my understanding of how the process works. But again, this is all new. This is the first time we've done this, so take it with a grain of salt.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else, or should we go to public? We good to go? Okay, now just as a note, there's a thing at the bottom of your Zoom, if you're there, it's called React, and I believe there's something in there that, let me click on it, says raise your hand. So if you would like to talk, that little button at the bottom under the React icon has a raise your hand, and that will let us know that you want to talk. So Nancy Monaco, I see you up first. Are we able to mute? There we go.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for the presentation. It was a really informed presentation. I really appreciate it. I have 2 questions. The first one is, reading everything that the students said at the last public hearing. First of all, I love the virtual meeting. I prefer it. I might be the only person, so I appreciate the virtual meeting. But the kids I heard were incredible advocates. I'm hoping that we can learn from them and maybe take that advocacy to the state, because truly, the state really is underfunding Ansonia. It's really sad to see on social media. And, I don't know if it's because it's political, what it is, what the background is, but there's this false narrative going around that in fiscal year 26, we're going to be fully funded. And that's insulting, I think, to every single student in Ansonia schools to have to read that or to have to hear it, or for that false narrative to be spun, because it's continuously been underfunded. And the compounding factors of that underfunding over decades is so damning, and that to just pretend like it doesn't exist is horrible. And what I don't want is for the state to think, well, the people in Ansonia don't understand this, so we don't really have to fund them. Like, the state of Connecticut has a constitutional obligation to these children, and I want to put their feet to the fire and let them know that we're upset that they continuously underfund us. So whatever advocacy you guys need, tag my kids, tag me, whatever you need, because those kids are brilliant at every single school. Those kids deserve the same thing that every other kid in more affluent towns is given, but we have to fight for. So I just want to hope that we do that on the state level. The second thing I have a question on is if the special ed funding comes in over that 73%, do you guys have a plan for what gets, like, is there a priority to what gets funded? Is it, how are you going to do that?
Okay. Advocacy, yeah, I would love to see it. I'm not sure how to do it necessarily. That's kind of more from our political people, I would think, but I think they've heard our plea over the time. And, the state is doing what they need to do to keep their boat afloat, just like we need to do what we need to do, keep our boat afloat. So I understand it, but it's not a one size fits all for various districts. And we are an anomaly. We're one of the smallest cities in the state. We're the 10th most populated city in the state. We're severely distressed municipality. There's just so many variables that one size does not fit all. But yeah, it would be nice that if we could maybe open dialogue with the state on the SPED. Again, if we had knowledge today, we would put that number in. If we could know exactly what they were going to give us, and we would reduce our request. And so if money does come in after the fact, in my way of thinking, and it would be a discussion with the board and Dr. DeBacco, but probably at this point would reinstate any cuts we've had to make based on the referendum, and then anything in excess of that. I've already told the city administration that we would just leave it at the bottom line for the end of the year. We're not out there to do anything to hurt the city. We want to help the city. The request we have now is pretty much where we need to be. But if we were to get additional funds, we would work to have that go back to the city so that they could turn around and use it as part of the funding for next year. That would be the plan for that. So, and before I forget, I'm remiss. I know Valley Indy, I heard, is live streaming this, and I thank them for being able to get this out so that more people can hear and play back on this, because it's really important for people to know and understand exactly what's going on with the numbers. And we're on 3 different financial people, and Eric is on tonight. He's doing very well. But we've had 3 people in the last 3 years, and it's been kind of hectic. We're starting to get a very good handle on all of the line items and the numbers, and we're still working through those. But the information flow should be better going forward. That is my hope. So, thank you.
Rich, can I say that was very well said, what Nancy had said. To her point, we're doing testimony year after year. Dr. Joe's going up to Hartford. I submitted several letters of testimony. When at some point is the state going to say, this is going through every city and every town in Connecticut are being subjected to these cuts. When are these testimonies going to be heard? Thank you. Thank you, Nancy.
Okay. Thanks, Sharon. Bev, you got your hand up, I see. I don't know if there's others, but Bev Tidmarsh, can you name and address for the record, please? Can we unmute Bev Tidmarsh?
I believe so.
There we go.
There we are. Bev Tidmarsh, 77 Westfield Avenue. I want to commend the board members, Dr. DeBacco, Mr. Bergen, for allowing the board to give us the transparency for a budget. Most people in the community really don't have a clue as to what the budget is spent on. And I was on the Board of Ed for many, many years, quite a few years ago. And I know how difficult it can be when you start getting into talking about cutting staff, cutting people, cutting programs. So I think these last few years with the current board and the current administration have done more than a commendable job getting programs together for the students that they can experience work programs and doing extremely well academically, that they're getting into colleges. So I'm really impressed, and you try to chalk it up as best you can with the people in the community. I'm retired, my husband's retired, we're senior citizens, I guess you could say. But, very supportive of education, and, if our taxes went up, so be it. So I felt the need to comment on this, and I agreed with Nancy Monaco from what she was saying as well, that those are excellent points to be made. And, we certainly can continue on with that, but thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to speak? You see Matt Huff, name and address for the record, please. Could we unmute Matt?
Hi, Matt Huff, president of the Ansonia Federation of Teachers. I'm actually at an AFT Connecticut meeting working with legislators on how to better fund schools. My point of confusion is, and I just actually checked with our lobbyists, currently based on the formula, Ansonia is going to get our complete ECS funding. It is fully funded. It may not be enough, but based on the formula, that is what the formula says. We are working with them to make proposals to change some of the special education cost funding that'll hopefully help Ansonia. But I just did want to clarify that anything from the state shows that we are fully funded, at least from the current formula. The issue is that because of the Alliance grant, our hands are tied. And that's two very different things. I want people to understand that, as Richie already explained very well, that so much of the money comes under specific controls, and that's where we have an issue. But we are working with the state. The state understands. There's actually a large special education group meeting every single day, trying to change the way special education is funding. There's also proposals to add a special education weighting to the ECS formula, which would help us. The problem is they can't figure out their budget. They can't agree. So we're stuck waiting on them. So I just wanted to clarify. I thank you for all the compliments towards our staff. Our teachers are amazing. And right now, people are not leaving. They want to work in Ansonia. I love my colleagues. I don't want to go back to where we were several years ago, where we had to lay off numerous teachers. And thank you for all of your hard work.
Thank you, Matt. And yeah, just to follow up with Matt, the fully funding, yeah, that is for the ECS portion of it. And I don't know, I think they base it off a student count, and it's, I don't know, around $11,000 per student, something to that effect. It's kind of complex and I don't fully understand it, so please bear with me on that. But the problem is not the fully funding of the ECS. The problem is that the city, the one that is funding this budget that we're talking about tonight, gets zero increase for the last 18 years. All of the money goes into the Alliance grant, and it is specifically has to be spent on things that the state approves, and there's not does not take away from anything, or it can't be spent on anything that's in the current operating budget, and that is a problem. That's the major problem of this. If they would allow us to just take that Alliance money and filter it right back through to the operating budget, the citizens and the board would probably be in a much better place. But again, that's the advocacy that's needed in Hartford to get the changes like that needed. So thanks, Matt. I see Beth Lynch has a hand up.
Hi, Rich. I don't know if you had a chance to look at your phone. I did send you the section of the charter that pertains to non-adoption of the budget and what happens. So if you wanted to share that.
Wow. Okay. I got a lot of them. Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me just read what you're saying here. By June Yeah,
Is that
non-adoption of,
June
if the
20th?
budget is not adopted by June 20th, the city shall send out real estate tax bills based on the same taxation figures and adjusted mill rate of the prior fiscal year, which would include adjustments for the new revenues, debt service, and legal obligations for the next fiscal year, which begins July 1. After the complete budget is passed, the balance of the real estate plus personal property, motor vehicle tax bills should be sent out based on a charge brought after the referendum vote. So, yeah, again, that kind of leads into, I think we would have the possibility of another vote on June 5th and maybe one after that. And at that point, if it wasn't passed, we would revert to the prior year's budget till such time as the budget is approved. And then we would rebill for the additional amount. So thanks, Beth. Is there anybody else that would like to share, comment? Thomas Egan, I see your hand up.
Thomas Egan, 253 Main Street, Ansonia. I've reviewed this proposed $403,000 in school budget cuts, and let me be clear, these are not just numbers on a spreadsheet. These are direct hits to the kids' futures. No new AP math or science textbooks. To me, that just says, telling our bright students here at Ansonia, they don't deserve to compete with, say, Shelton or Derby. You know, cutting these after-school programs and middle school sports, you know, it's leaving working families without support and teenagers, leaving them without structure. Let's be real. We all know what happens when teenagers are left with nothing to do. No full-time school safety officer in this day and age, that's borderline reckless. You know, eliminating these tech upgrades, that's like telling our kids to compete in the 21st century world using equipment from when I went to high school. Personally, I think that's just a little absurd. I understand we have limited funds, that this is where we're making the cuts. I think the priorities are broken. And I think a city that cuts its schools isn't saving money, it's burning its own future. Our city spends a lot of money on other things. I think in balancing all the budgets and whatnot, I think there could be cuts on the other side before cuts are made here. Thomas Egan, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, just to kind of dovetail into that, should be noted that, you know, the special ed portion of the expenditures can't be cut to the same extent as other things can be. So it tends to be one-sided. You know, there may be some things in special ed that we might be able to curtail, but based on, you know, the requirements by the state, we can't really cut a lot of that. So more of the cuts, even though they're out there, they're going to be cut on the regular ed side of things. So I see a hand up. Meg, name and address for the record, please.
Meg Pereira, 103 Rockwood Avenue. I had a question. So I went to both times with the voting, and so there were the two questions, like about the city's budget, was it high enough or low enough, and then the education one. So I wanted to understand, as far as the city side, what exactly is covered with that portion of it, so that I understand when I thought the education budget was too low. So, but I want to understand the other side of it, so I know kind of how it's all splitting up, I guess.
Although I kind of know the city side of things, I'm here as Board of Ed and to talk about Board of Ed side budget. So
Right. I guess, I'm sorry.
I don't know how to answer that question exactly. You know,
I guess my question is, what exactly was that question asking? Like, when they were saying, is it too high or too low? Like, too high or too low for what? Like,
well, in other
everything
words,
else for the city, or?
I'm not sure that it's the best question. I've heard people said, "Oh, I voted no because I wanted it higher," and that is not necessarily the best answer. The question, I believe, states, if you voted no, do you think it's too low or too high? And so it kind of defeats, if you vote no, the budget's going to probably end up getting cut even further on the next one, not go up. unless it was the majority of people saying it was too low. So that was not the case in this thing. So most people think things were too high, and so the next round they're usually cutting. But specific answers to this, to the city side budget, I'm gonna defer that to, I think the Board of Aldermen has a meeting Monday night, and those questions probably be more pertinent at that point. For us, we're discussing ours. We're gonna have a quick vote to if our board is in agreement to send these to the Board of Aldermen for their review. They make the final decisions on what will be presented on the next referendum. But thank you. Any other questions? Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to address the board? I see Stacy Esposito.
Hi, yes, Stacy Esposito, 46 Lewinsky Way. I had some questions in regards to the proposal on the lowering of the budget. Is there anything that we, the taxpayers, can do to prevent these cuts from the students? I mean, unfortunately, they're the ones that are taking the hit here, and to echo Nancy's sentiment, like, we're taking away from the city essentially by not putting the money back into our kids. So what can we do to prevent or to help get this next budget passed, or, you know, eliminate risk? What can we do to prevent all of the loss of sports, after school activities, AP classes being cut for these kids with this next budget?
I guess the simple answer to that is there needs to be more yes votes than no votes on the referendum questions. You know, the ideal, I guess that's the simplistic answer to it. We need to educate people to what it is that we're talking about, what the implications are, and to get as many people as we can to get out to vote, whatever way they decide they want to vote. But I think, more people that vote with understanding what the process and what the potential risks are will help that matter. So I guess that's the simple answer. I don't have anything else really I can say to that.
Rich?
Yes, sir.
This is Chris. I just want to mention, going back to Meg's point, and I think we talked about it at our meeting last night, was there was some confusion that we think some people may have voted no because they thought it was too low rather than yes. And to chime in on Stacy's comment, again, if I'm not mistaken, we're submitting the new budget with the $403,000 cut, whatever it may be. And those are the cuts you had just talked about and explained earlier. Stacy's question is, how do we avoid that? Well, I guess going forward, if we pass this budget to the aldermen and they go ahead and pass it, even if it's voted yes at the next referendum, if the budget is approved, it's going to be approved with the $403,000 cuts. Therefore, all these cuts on the paper are going to have to happen. The only way that we could avoid those would be to present the same number that we have then, and the voters vote yes for them. That's the only way I see to preserve any of these proposed cuts, that we wouldn't have to do it. We'd have to present the budget as it has been in the first two referendums. But how would,
Yeah,
voted down twice, how do we by wide margins? So I think we're kind of
Yes.
stuck there.
I don't think that's a realistic option at this point, in my opinion. And you know what? I'm not. It hurts me. It pains me to suggest that we have to make cuts, but we need a budget. We really need a budget that's not the same as last year. So at this point, it's whatever we need to do to get the budget passed as soon as possible with the minimum amount of cuts. And again, I'm hopeful that the state will actually do something on excess special ed that will help this in the long run. But at this point, I don't know any other thing to say on that. So, but thank you, Stacy. Is that it? You all set? Okay. I see Nancy again, but let's try C. Davis first if we can, and we'll come back.
Hi, I'm Christine Davis. I'm a resident of Ansonia, 121 Ford Street in Ansonia. I've been a teacher at Ansonia High School for 27 years. I'm a lifelong resident of Ansonia. I would like to comment on Stacy's question. In this day and age, I really do believe that we should move to social media, Stacy, where we can have a presence, encourage our family members who are 18 and over in our Ansonia residents to vote. I also encourage our seniors at Ansonia High School who are 18 and over to vote. We all know that the best way to invest in a city is to put the money into education. It's how we entice people to come to Ansonia and live in Ansonia. And we really do need to start putting our resources into our schools, sustaining our programs, and making Ansonia public schools even greater than they are today. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Nancy, you had your hand up. I don't know where would you like to speak again? Okay. Nancy Monaco?
Thank you. I just wanted to comment because I do think there's a solution. If this goes to referendum and it gets approved with these cuts, we understand those cuts are going to be made. And I guess our hope is that that's the best case scenario, that these cuts are made, because if it doesn't get passed, we're looking at teachers being laid off, which nobody wants. But the solution is this. The solution is advocacy at the state level so that the special education funding comes through. Because what I heard you say, Mr. Bashara, was that if that funding comes through, many of these cuts will be reinstated. And that's truly that everyone should be pounding on the state rep's door, on the state senator's door to say, we are not okay with you underfunding our kids. So that's the advocacy. That's the solution. And it should have been the solution for the last 3 decades. And I know I'm preaching to the choir because I know you guys have been doing it. And I know I've seen it. I've seen the testimony. I know you guys have been doing it. And I thank you for it. Like I really do, because I know that you guys are at your wits' end. But it's the advocacy that we need from everybody else at that level. Because if Ansonia can show up, Ansonia shows up for Ansonia. Ansonia shows up for the Valley. Ansonia is incredible. But I think it's this false narrative that they think the state is doing what they need to do for us when they're not.
I don't disagree with you. I think that we could be better supported, and it's not really big changes or differences. There's more than one way to do what they're doing to help us. But I don't know how we get that to happen. Again, they are operating under their fiscal guardrails, and they're doing what they need to do to make sure that things are working for them. And it's not always the best for every municipality. So, okay, understood. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Now's the time to ask any questions you have, because this is not a common occurrence to have this kind of a thing going on here. I don't know how many people we got now, still in the 70s out there. Would anybody else like to address the board? Third and final time. Would anyone else like to address the board on the budget referendum? We have Diane Stroman.
Good afternoon, Diane Stroman, 66 High Street, Ansonia, Connecticut, and I have been here for 74 years, going through the public schools and going through the high school, graduating from Ansonia High School. I'm listening to everyone, and it just sounds like we're preaching to the choir, because those of us who are here are supportive of the Board of Education. Our goal should be, how do we get out? Think about how do we get out to those individuals who are not online, may not have the ability to be online, especially some of the seniors. How do we advocate for them to understand and know the importance of what's happening? For the seniors, and I'm certainly one of them, you see a tax increase and you panic because you don't know the unknown. One question I would have, Rick, is do we know, based on the current cuts that are before us and what the city is proposing, do we know what that means as far as a tax increase regarding the mill rate?
Again, I don't want to speak for the city on their side of it, but a mill is approximately $1.4 million. Ours would be a $400,000 cut. And I don't want to talk out of school, but I've heard that the city may be proposing a 0% increase, which would be another 300. So I would guess it's about a 0.5 mil decrease from where we were before, wherever that was.
Okay. And I think somehow or other people should know that, because I think every time they're going to vote, and I'm up there, so I see people who are coming in to vote, and a lot of them are the seniors. A lot of them are the seniors. And I think what they are thinking is how this is impacting them. So one, I think somehow through some marketing, through something that we should try and educate the seniors on what that actually means. Also, I was thinking of, when we were talking about advocacy, you know, maybe bringing together our PTOs and having them help in getting the word out up to the community as a whole regarding the vote and what that means and how it will impact, as we say, you know, the children are our future. And because I think people are afraid. They don't know what this is going to mean. And somehow we have to, you know, get them calm and and to educate them on actually what it means. I tend to see on a day-to-day basis, you know, how our teachers are working. We have the best, I know we have the best teachers anywhere in the state. I watch them and I go home sometimes and say, Lord, I couldn't do what they do. You know, they're teaching, they're social workers, they're, you know, they're moms, they're dads, they're everything. And it shows with the children. You know, saying that they'd have to increase the classrooms, the number of children in the classroom, when you have so many different personalities, so many different issues that are going on, it's going to impact, definitely going to impact our children, and it'll impact the future of the children. So, you know, I'm just thinking on the advocacy side, you know, if there could be a group or a committee or those who are, you know, let's get the word out. Let's figure out how we can best communicate to folks to make them aware of what it means, how they can help, you know, how they could keep us from going backwards, because that's exactly what'll happen if we have to continue to make other cuts. But anyway, so moved.
Thank you, Diane. Just so people are aware, we, you know, we as people we're board members, the staff, we have to be careful. We can't go out and advocate directly to the people on how to vote. There's a lot of rules and regulations. So, you know, we have to be careful on exactly what we do and say to whomever. But, you know, this discussion was, you know, prompted. I kept hearing from my board members, people don't know what it is, don't know what our budget is. They want to understand it. So I said, okay, let's do this Zoom. So this is about letting people know and understand what the process is. You know, a lot of intelligent people out there, they can make up their own minds, but we need to be careful just how we present. So thank you for your time, Diane. I see Nina got her hand up. Can we unmute Nina Phipps, please?
I asked her to unmute.
Nina, you gotta click the button, I think, to unmute. Okay, we'll come back to Nina. Meg?
So as far as like with the advocacy that everyone's talking about, I know the board can't tell people how to vote, but as far as like the general public and not even telling people how to vote, but just giving people information and the education on it, like, is this something where we can do phone calls? Is this something where we can door knock? Is this something where we can set up tables at like the sporting events and the different things going on in the city, in the town, so that people can get this information?
Yes, as long as you're not affiliated with the city or the schools, you are able to do whatever you'd like to do.
Okay.
So, there's laws governing, municipal people from applying pressure to students or, we just have to be very careful on how and what we say and do. So, yeah, the hope is to get people out there to know and understand what we are presenting and talk to people and hopefully get as many people out there as we can to vote. That's really the goal.
So would it be possible to have like a one pager like written up by someone on the board that kind of explains everything? So that's something that we would have to give out to people?
I can ask about that. Okay, I will ask council to make sure that we're not overstepping our bounds, but I believe that we are able to do that. But I would like to verify that first.
Yeah, just
Okay,
so it's
so-
the correct information and we're not.
Yeah, you can, we'll try to put, we posted a bunch of stuff out on the Ansonia.org website under the Board of Ed budget area. And most of what we're talking about tonight is there, but if there's something specific, I'm sure if you contact central office, we can tell you whether we can or can't and what we can give you, okay?
Thank you.
Nina, are you able to unmute yet?
Yeah, he's got her upstairs.
There
Hey,
you are.
Rich, I came up to Chris's because I was clicking the unmute button and it wasn't working. I don't know why.
Okay.
So sorry about that. Nina Phipps, 60 Rockwood Avenue, Ansonia. I think Diane kind of asked the question I was thinking, do we even know, or we may not know until Monday, I guess, if between these cuts and whatever potential cuts or changes the city is going to make, could that bring it down below the percentage that we're trying to get to, if you will, to avoid another referendum? Do we have any idea if we're going to even come somewhat close to that? Or again, we won't know until Monday.
Again, I don't want to talk for the finance side, but I'll put my finance hat on for a minute and tell you, I don't think so. That
Okay.
number, again, it's not all about the expense side. We have a revenue issue with the motor vehicle reduction in revenues and others. So it would be a very small amount of money increase for both Board of Ed and city, a very small amount of money that would put us below the threshold. So that's probably a no, but again, I don't want to speak for the board. And I'll remind people again, Monday night, the Board of Aldermen should be meeting. I believe they have a meeting scheduled. And they will ultimately be talking about their side and what our recommendations to them would be. Similar to what we had a week or so ago. They will make the final decisions on this. So if there's other questions or finance side or city side questions, you'll have the opportunity to ask them those questions.
Okay, thank you. And then another, as far as the advocacy and getting the word out, I guess, and I think Meg just brought something up as well, as far as a one pager. And Diane brought up the seniors that seem to be a lot of the voters coming out. Is there a way potentially legally to get someone down to the senior center and maybe talk to the seniors and explain things to them so that they understand what is going on? And I get it from their perspective, but also, they're seniors that are living here. More than likely, they have raised their children here. So when their children were in school, other seniors were paying the taxes for their children. And, Chris and I, we no longer have any children in the school system. We have no grandchildren in the school system, but we're still willing to make that payment because when our kids were there, actually, I should say when Chris was in the school, people did that for them. So, and I'm not trying to be nasty and saying that, but I think they just need to be educated on the cost of all the increases, just like their cost of living. So does education go up and everything else. So it may just be something, if someone could get down there and talk to them, if they could set up a meeting or something, to give them some more information to understand why it is what it is.
Okay, we'll take that and we'll ask about that also.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I'll go down there if you need me to.
Thanks, Nina.
Thanks.
Bye. Okay, Beth, I saw your hand up before. I don't want to bypass you. Are you interested in talking again or no? Okay. If you
Sorry.
do, oh, did you
Yeah,
have your hand up?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Beth.
Yeah.
Okay, I see Edwina has a hand up.
Hi, everybody. Dr. DeBacco, Mr. G, Ali says hello. They beat Derby. I have a question in regards to explaining everything to the seniors, to the senior, community that lives in town. I went to vote with Ali and her best friend, and they were completely confused. Now they're seniors at the high school. They're 18 years old. They're able to vote, but they don't know what they're doing because everything's going out to them. They're cutting, they're taking away your stuff, they're taking away sports, they're taking away this, but they don't truly understand why and how they're supposed to vote. So I know the Board of Ed and you guys are doing a great job trying to give them what they have and keep what they have and give them more. But they really, the people that we need voting, and we need more people voting, truly don't understand the questions that are there on the ballot. Because even myself and my husband got confused.
Well, it's a new process for us.
And I completely understand.
And it's similar to what they have, I guess, in Seymour, and they kind of probably put that in there to follow that same pattern. But again, it's not a cut. The Board of Aldermen did not cut this. Okay, the people voted no to the budget, and so we need to be careful and cognizant that we're not blaming the Board of Aldermen. They're doing what they need to do
right
to get a budget passed also. And
right.
I'm very happy to see the students up there expressing their thoughts on all the different programs that we're going. And that is really great that some of those kids just amazed me, and they reinforced my love for this Ansonia School District. But yes, the process is a little confusing, even for the adults. And, I'll pass that along. Maybe we can put out some kind of a how to vote thing a little bit better and kind of get there and do that. So I'll note that and see what we can do on that. Okay.
And I appreciate that. And just as a side note, a lot of people, I'm very lucky to be the mom of Aliana Figueroa.
She's great.
I'm very proud to be her mom. And because she's involved in the Boys and Girls Club, which is huge in this city, which helps a lot of parents. She won Youth of the Year, so she's actually going to the Capitol next week after she does mock trial. And then, she's going to be in front of the governor, and she's going to be in front of Senate, and she's going to be in front of the people that are supposed to do what they're supposed to do for our state. And I can guarantee you she will be bringing this up. Because even though she's graduating, like she said at the other meeting, she doesn't want to see her brother and his friends not have what she's had. So I think it is a lot about, because did we see a rise in voters for the second vote? Because if it's the same people, it's like when I was volunteering for Little League and cheer. If you have the same parents do the same thing, you're not going to get much change.
Yeah.
So did we see a difference in voters? Did we see it go up at all?
Well, we did not in this last one, and I don't know. I'm hopeful that the next one will. If I follow the Seymour, I think they had 700 more voters on their second election than they had in their first one. And that's the hope, is to get information out and get more people to come out and vote on it. But I don't know the answer to that question. But
okay, I
just for those
appreciate
that don't know, Edwina's daughter, Aliana, is a student representative on our Board of Education, and she is I think she's going to Rutgers, if I recall.
Yes, yes, she is.
Yeah, she's very, very, very good. So very happy for her.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all.
Rich, it's
Chris,
Chris
go
again.
ahead.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing, could be wrong, is the question is confusing. And I don't know the legalities of how to put the question on there, but maybe even, I think maybe is it too high? Is it too low? Can that be taken off of the ballot? Maybe
I
it's something
believe
that's
it's
the
part of
alderman?
it's part of the charter, the exact on how
It
the
is.
question will be posed.
Okay,
So,
because that
yeah,
is confusing.
It would have to be
yeah.
more instruction on that, but I believe it's being done based on specifics in the charter.
Okay,
So
all right, thanks. But an
I'll verify
explanation
that,
would probably be
okay,
helpful.
with downstairs, but I believe that to be true.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, anyone else from the public wish to address the board? I think there was another hand up. I don't know where it went. Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to address the board? Third and final time, anyone from the public wish to address the board? Okay, hearing none, seeing none, public session is now closed. I want to thank everyone for coming out. I want to thank our board members. I'd like to, we've talked about these different things. Come back to my board members and say, is there anything that you want to do, that change anything or modify anything that we're going to do? Or shall we just go to, I'll entertain a motion to approve the recommended cuts to be sent to the Board of Aldermen for their Monday night meeting.
I'll make that motion, Rich.
So we have a motion on the floor from Dave Knapp.
Second.
Chris Phipps will second that motion. Is there any discussion on that before we move forward? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. That motion carries, so we will send that list of recommended cuts to the Board of Aldermen for their Monday meeting. Any other discussion before we close the meeting down? Anybody want to say anything? Dr. Joe, you want to have anything, or are you all good?
I'm not good, but I just want to say I appreciate the love and support for our students, the city of Ansonia, our kids. This is just compelling and makes us all want to work harder, and make us all do the right thing. So I thank everybody very much for tuning in. I appreciate it greatly. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Dave?
So moved.
Chris, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Written by Dave. Thank you all. Motion, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. I appreciate your time and effort.
Thank you, Rich.
The recording has
Thank you, Rich.
stopped.
Okay, good night.